Lummis of Wyoming is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, panel. I want to follow up a little bit on Senator Kennedy's line of questioning. As I read Statute 5365, Section C, risks to financial stability, safety, and soundness, the Board of Governors may order or rule, the Board of Governors may, by order or rule promulgated pursuant to Section 553, apply any prudential standard established under this section to any bank holding company with consolidated assets equal to or greater than $100 billion. So that was Silicon Valley Bank. Then you've got Statute 2155, that when it was changed from may to shall, made mandatory a new duty on the Federal Reserve to take into account higher risk profiles presented by certain banks and to strengthen supervision of those banks. So you look at Silicon Valley Bank. They had a number of activities with above average risk profiles. Their concentration of deposits, the quantity of uninsured deposits, 94% uninsured deposits. Then you look at Federal Reserve Authority under Regulation YY to impose additional risk-based or leverage capital or liquidity requirements or other requirements the board deems necessary to carry out the purposes of Dodd-Frank. I look at all this and I think that among all these statutes and regulations, the Fed had plenty of authority to prevent Silicon Valley Bank and the problems it encountered, and was aware pretty early on that there were unique problems there and that it was a very, very unique financial institution because of its risk profile, but didn't do it. As I look at what authority you've been given, I can't think of another additional rule or regulation or law that you needed. Tell me whether you agree with that or not.
Senator, I agree that the Federal Reserve has substantial discretion to alter through notice and comment rulemaking the rules that were put in place in 2019 with respect to firms over $100 billion. There are some areas that the statute would provide some limitation to, but there is substantial discretion for the Federal Reserve to change its rules for firms in the $100 to $250 billion range.
Change its rules. What would it have to do?
We would have to go through a notice and comment rulemaking process.
Oh, I don't mean the procedure for changing a rule. I mean, what changes would you make to the rule?
Senator, we haven't made a definitive conclusion on that. We're undertaking this review of SBV's failure in order to better assess whether it would be appropriate to change capital rules and liquidity rules for this size firm, for firms more generally. We're looking at that right now.
Is fractional reserve banking overly risky in this age of online banking?
Senator, let me just say, repeat what I said before, which is that overall the safety and soundness of the banking system is strong. Banks are safe and sound. Depositors should feel assured that their deposits are safe.
Well, here's the problem, though. As I see it, the way that these banks have been managed, Wyoming's community banks may end up paying for this through higher assessments from the FDIC. Am I correct, Mr. Grunberg?
Well, as I indicated, Senator, in regard to these two institutions, any cost to the Deposit Insurance Fund from covering uninsured deposits is required by law to be recovered through an assessment on the banking industry.
Exactly.
If I make just one additional point, the law does give the FDIC authority in implementing that assessment to consider the types of entities that benefit from any action taken or assistance provided.
So are you saying that you're able to exempt Wyoming's community banks from paying for this?
I'm suggesting we have some discretion there, and we're going to consider that issue carefully.
Will you exempt community banks from having to pay for this?
That's a judgment our board is going to have to make. And as I indicated, we anticipate going out for notice and comment, public rulemaking in May to implement the assessment. And as I indicated, we have discretion
Do you
here
have
under
to
the
go
law.
through APA rulemaking to assess?
That's the law. That's a legal requirement, though.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.